In the city of Aransas Pass, a lack of housing is said to be the biggest problem right now. That's according to the Aransas Pass city manager, Gary Edwards. He spoke at this State of the City luncheon held in the Aransas Pass Civic Center today. Edwards telling the audience that the city has made a lot of progress since Hurricane Harvey, but that dealing with FEMA and working with developers are still the biggest challenges for that city. Edwards says right now the 8 apartment complexes they have, or of the 8, only 3 are open.
Those housing units will come back as far as the apartments go. And a good sign is we have a large 360 single home development, new homes under construction right now. And they're selling very well. That's a good sign for the community. That helps with the housing shortage.
Edwards did say more apartments are opening up every day and that developers are interested in building new apartment complexes there. Other news now, a public meeting getting underway at this hour in Aransas Pass on what has become a big controversy there. At issue is whether the city should annex about 1,400 acres of land. Supporters say doing so would keep the land in question away from other cities like Corpus Christi. Our Bill Churchwell reports from Aransas Pass tonight.
Welcome to Aransas Pass. The city could soon be expanding if city leaders decide to annex more land. It's a part of their Phase 2 project, the city's way of protecting the area from others trying to grab up land around them.
Protecting the city from Corpus Christi coming into the city. Phase 1 accomplished that. We're now into Phase 2.
Here's a look at the 2 areas up for annexation by the city of Aransas Pass, both shaded in orange. The first is right here along Highway 35. The second is along Business Highway 35, and it's this area that also includes Rockport Terminals.
Rockport Terminals has been very aggressive, quite frankly, as far as trying to protect their particular area.
Aransas Pass City Manager Gary Edwards says the city is working to come to terms with that company.
There are reasons for concern, good reasons. On the other hand, we believe our reasons for concern are also good as far as protecting the public benefit.
The city will be giving the company a chance to speak at a public meeting taking place at the Civic Center, along with anyone else from the community who might have concerns.
Sometimes annexation will mean some people are unhappy. They don't want to be in the city limits. We perfectly understand that. That's a perfectly understandable response. On the other hand, there are times for the public benefit that it's necessary to annex.
But it's not a done deal. The annexation is still under consideration by city council members. Bill Churchwell, 3 News.
Well, Gary Edwards, the city manager there, says the effort to annex the land has gained support from neighboring cities, including the city of Ingleside and the city of Rockport. More to come on that.
You paid for dozens of local road projects made possible by the Federal Recovery Act. The problem is Arizona has fallen far behind other states in actually building those roads.
Melissa Blasius tells us what's being done to make the use it or lose it deadline.
On Wickenburg's west side, drivers turn from a smooth ride on US 60 to Vulture Mine Road.
Yes, there's a lot of potholes and chug holes, and I imagine people have, get some flat tires from it.
When stimulus road funding was announced for Wickenburg last spring, the idea to fix this road flew to the top of the list.
Paving improvements and draining improvements on a road that's turning out to be very, very busy for this area.
Breaking ground on stimulus-funded road projects across Arizona is a priority, but you wouldn't know it by a federal report released today. The showed just 18% of Arizona's surface street projects have been green-lighted for construction. Compare that to the national average, 63%. Projects not ready in the next 10 weeks will be stripped of their funding.
And we want to make sure that no funding is sent back to Washington.
ADOT has shepherded the local road projects, and the agency does have a backup plan so no money is left on the table.
ADOT has a list of 214 state stimulus projects that are ready to go forward, that are shovel ready, that we can use with that local government money.
ADOT would plug in those state projects under 2 conditions. First, if a city project suddenly ultimately couldn't meet the deadline, which ADOT isn't expecting, or secondly, if other projects come in under budget, freeing up extra cash, and that's happening a lot.
Ultimately, this is a very beneficial program.
One Wickenburg doesn't want to miss out on, but the town manager has found that means compromises, like skipping plans to include a Vulture Mine Road lane to be sure the project as a whole squeaks in under the deadline. In Wickenburg, Melissa Blasius, 12 News.
Violent storms spawned a record number of tornadoes across the Midwest over the weekend, killing at least 12 people. 9 deaths were reported in Missouri, 4 in Randolph County, where the twisters wrecked mobile homes and destroyed several buildings. Joining us now by phone from Randolph County is Gary Edwards. He is the city manager for Moberly, Missouri. Good morning, Gary, and thanks for being with us.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
Obviously, the biggest tragedy here are those 4 deaths in your area, but we have mentioned that numerous houses were completely gone after this twister came through. You assessed the damage firsthand. Can you give us a sense of the destruction and the devastation that you saw?
Absolutely, and that's a good way to describe it. It was devastating for the entire county. The worst storm that we've experienced in Randolph County ever. 4 deaths, 26 injuries, 30 residential units were sustained total destruction. 30 residential units rated as minor to moderate damage. 2 businesses totally destroyed. A state-owned building, Missouri Department of Transportation, totally destroyed. That's a quick overview of some of the destruction that occurred here.
And Gary, I know, having lived in actually the state of Missouri for nearly 8 years, just how common, unfortunately, tornadoes are. But give us a sense of how this one compares to others you all have fared. I mean, just how much more devastating was this tornado?
We think extremely much more devastating because of the deaths that occurred, because of the amount of property damage that occurred, and because of the number of tornadoes. Sunday night, we're reporting now 90 to 100 tornadoes that went through the state of Missouri. So this is quite unique, even for a state that is at the northern fringe of the tornado alley.
And Mr. Edwards, obviously people know that it's a possibility when you live in these types of areas, but what is the emergency plan typically, and was it adhered to? I know that obviously when people die, you always try to second guess and take a look back at what could have been done differently, but will things change? Will there be a different plan? Give us a sense of how things worked and how things may work in the future.
In the case of Moberly, the sirens were sound. They were activated well ahead of the actual touchdown of the first tornado. On the other hand, in the rural areas and in the small towns, there are no sirens. That's being looked at as a problem that needs to be addressed. In rural areas, it doesn't make sense to have sirens. Having access to radios or weather radios makes more sense. That will make more sense to go that direction. But we're looking at the entire emergency management operation, countywide and citywide, to see how improvements can be made. More specifically, how word can be gotten to citizens more quickly than what is now the case. We need cooperation with the Weather Bureau, cooperation with the state. But these are all things that are happening right now. As a matter of fact, and maybe it's being timed poorly, but there is a statewide alarm that's being sounded. It's been planned for a long time. That's being activated at 1:30. Storm alarms around the state are being sounded at 1:30 today. Maybe a bad time because it's coming so right on the heels of the weekend storm. But that's one example of how training and planning will help improve the situation as we progress.
Absolutely. Gary Edwards, City Manager from Moberly, Missouri, Randolph County. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
In other news, after several years of poor fiscal health, Moberly's budget is finally on its way to recovery. KOMU's Sarah Adams shows us how Moberly's financial turnaround has a lot to do with increased growth.
Moberly has been hard at work trying to mend a budget that in years past has been far from healthy.
We had a reserve in the general fund of under $100,000 when it should have been over $600,000.
Monday night, the City Council gave its final approval for Moberly's 2006-2007 budget. For the first time in many years, the budget is balanced and significantly bigger. Revenue played a crucial role in bringing Moberly back into the black. Sales tax, property tax, franchise fees, and interest income are all up, leading to higher revenue. According to Moberly officials, growth in revenue has a lot to do with the recent growth of the city.
2001, we've had 800 new jobs come into the area that are manufacturing or distribution-based jobs, and those are significant to the area as far as adding to the growth and bringing in sales tax dollars, allowing people to be able to spend that money.
Local business owners have also noticed the growth.
Looking out the windows, I've seen a lot more people out on the streets in downtown, shopping downtown.
For small, family-owned businesses like the Bouquet Shop,
every little bit of growth helps.
Sarah Adams, KOMU News, Moberly.
This is the second year Moberly has improved its budget. The new bigger budget will allow the city to spend more money on city departments and services.
Since the arrival of the railroad, Moberly's embraced the name the Magic City because the town seemed to grow magically overnight. Today, Moberly is still growing and changing, and the city hopes to meet the growing needs of the community.
You need a baseline to start measuring the city services, what people think of them, and where you need to make improvements.
Last summer, the city sent out 5,000 surveys to find out just what people think of the city. Many residents saw it as an opportunity.
I think it will just keep them in touch with the people.
All in all, the results were positive, with only one major cause for concern.
It was overwhelmingly obvious that the residents want to see continued work in the area of the city's appearance.
I think that the public who responded to the survey hit the nail on the head as far as they just want to see the community appear better to the general eye.
And those who filled out the survey hope it doesn't stop there.
I just hope they do what the people say on the surveys. If they ask for change in some way, that they would do it.
That's the high priority, and that's where the resources have to be channeled to, because that is what citizens in Moberly are saying they would like to see improved.
A positive move to improve the town.
I think it's a lovely place, and I would just recommend it for anybody to live here.